Why would Sunday probably be the absolute worst day a woman should even attempt to have a conversation with any man? One word, football. I've learned from past experiences that trying to converse with any man, whether he's your dad, your brother, your cousin, your uncle, your friend, your neighbor, a significant other, on football Sunday is a very big mistake. But football is not just on Sundays. There's Thursday night football, Monday night football. There's college football all day and night on Saturdays. So basically, if you want to be listened to by a football-loving guy or girl for that matter during football season, you probably should not pick any time between Thursday night and Monday night to even attempt to get them to listen to you. For my presentation, the book I chose was called The Lost Art of Listening: How Learning to Listen Can Improve Relationships. This book is written by Michael P. Nichols, Ph.D. He is a professor of psychology at the College of William and Mary. This book discusses a lot of concepts that we talked about in class and that were in our textbook. Obviously, from the title, you could tell that the biggest one is listening. We all as humans, we have the need to be listened to. We also need to listen. And this book does a really good job of explaining how to become a better listener and how to be better at being listened to, what to do to get other people to work with you on that. On page 1, Nichols states that, quote, "Nothing hurts more than the sense that the people we care about aren't really listening," end quote. It seems as though we have a difficult time focusing our attentions for long periods of time. A perfect example of this is when I work all day, 8 or 9 hours, and then I go straight to class at night, and I have to sit there trying to focus my attention on my professor for almost 3 hours. After a long day of work, it's really difficult to do so, and my mind ends up wandering. And this is very bad come test time when I can't remember what has been said. Nichols states on page 11 that, quote, "Unfortunately, most of us think of ourselves as better listeners than we really are," end quote. I think a lot of us think that we are much better listeners than we are. And this book showed me that I am definitely not as good of a listener as I thought I was. I believe he said it perfectly on page 13 when he stated that, quote, "To listen is to pay attention, take an interest, care about, take to heart, validate, acknowledge, be moved, appreciate," end quote. We really do need to pay attention to those who are speaking to us. If our mind wanders, if we're thinking about something else, if we're hearing them but we're not really listening to them, it defeats the whole purpose of them trying to talk to us and get us to listen to them. We really, really, really need to pay attention and focus. Later on in the book, on page 141, Nichols says, "Good listeners don't act needy. They don't charm, flatter, provoke, or interrupt." Our conversations with people can often turn into arguments, which, according to Nichols, can be reduced by a simple technique that he refers to as responsive listening. On page 120, he describes responsive listening as being, quote, "a technique designed to reduce arguments by hearing the other person's side of the story before giving your own," end quote. So basically, when somebody is trying to talk to you about something, be a responsive listener. Let them speak before you say anything. This will really help with your listening skills. Don't try to interrupt. Don't try to give your 2 cents. Just listen. Once they're completely done, then you can speak. As seen on page 119, some of the many reasons people argue with each other can include, he includes a ton of them, but the ones I agreed with most are having bad memories, being selfish, being stubborn, or being emotional. The next thing I would like to talk about that Nichols delves into is relationships and relationship development and maintenance. According to the book, we have a tendency to be insensitive towards those we love the most and those we are closest to. On pages 169 and 170, he uses an example of a father being insensitive when his son is trying to vent to him why he's so upset. The son has a bad day at school, so he comes home, he tries to mow the lawn to take out some of his frustration. The lawnmower breaks. So he puts the lawnmower away, goes inside, he's all upset. His father comes in and asks him what's wrong, and the son tries telling him. The father doesn't empathize with him. He doesn't listen. He lectures. Well, this is why you should not be mad. You should do this. He has no he's very insincere when it comes to what his son is trying to tell him. And that's a big problem that a lot of us have with people who we are really close to. And that's something that we really need to work on changing. The father lectures him instead of being completely empathetic with him. On page 171, Nichols suggests that one way to become more sensitive in relationships is by, quote, checking to see if the person you want to talk to is busy, end quote. If you are going into a room full of your friends or family members, if someone looks up at you and acknowledges you, that is a good sign that they are willing to talk. It's a sign of them saying, hey, come over and talk to me. If you walk into the room and someone keeps their head down, does not acknowledge you, it's a good sign to stay away. They aren't in the mood to talk. They don't want to listen. They will not be good listeners. Just go up to someone who acknowledges you and just say, hey, are you busy? I could really use a minute for you to hear me out. Realizing we need to realize that we can't, nor should we, change those that are closest to us. And this is key in maturing a relationship. People are the way they are for a reason. Whether you agree with it or not, that's how they are. How they listen is how they listen. Yes, it can be worked on and changed, but who they are as a person is not going to change. And this is something that we need to understand in order to maintain our relationships and develop them even more. We can't change our friends to how we would want them to be. If some people can, that's great, but most of the time we can't. On page 191 and 192, Nichols advises that, quote, a relationship matures when you can allow the other person to be who he or she is, end quote. There are just some things that we need to learn to accept about the people in our lives and not have this constant need to change them. Relationships don't come and stay easily. They are something that everybody in the group needs to work on. Every party involved needs to work on it. You have to call each other. You can't depend on one person calling and the other person not. You have to visit each other. Everyone needs to work on maintaining and developing their relationships, whether it's your significant other, family, friends. Everyone needs to work at it. As Nichols says on page 207, quote, a relationship isn't something you have, it's something you do, end quote. In conclusion, we need to consider both the needs and wants of all parties involved to succeed at both listening and maintaining and developing our relationships better. Basically, if you want to be heard by a guy or girl who loves football, do not even attempt to talk to them when football is on or about to be on or just ending. Just don't even attempt it. Thanks, guys.